The unthinkable peace. The Craven Empire had conquered 15,000 worlds across 3 galaxies. Their military doctrine was perfection itself. Overwhelming force, systematic elimination of resistance, and total subjugation of native populations. They had never lost a war. They had never met humans. Commander Vorlak stood on the bridge of his dreadnought. The inevitable victory, as his armada assembled around Earth. The planet glowed blue and green below him, vulnerable and ripe for conquest. His tactical officers had analyzed human military capabilities and found them laughably inadequate. Nuclear weapons. The Craven had shields that could withstand supernovas. Projectile weapons. Their armor was forged in the hearts of neutron stars. Begin standard conquest protocol. Vorlak ordered, his 4 arms moving in practiced efficiency across his command console. Broadcast the surrender ultimatum. The message went out on all frequencies. People of Earth, you have been chosen for integration into the Craven Empire. Resistance is futile. Surrender now and your species will be allowed to serve. Resist, and you will be eliminated. What happened next would be studied by military academies across the galaxy for millennia. Earth responded immediately, but not with defiance or surrender. Instead, they sent a single message. Welcome to Earth. We've been waiting for you. Please, come down. Let's talk. Vorlak's secondary brain struggled to process this response. In 15,000 conquests, no species had ever welcomed them. His tactical officer, Zektar, turned 3 of his compound eyes toward him in confusion. Commander, I'm detecting no defensive preparations, no military mobilization. Their cities remain open. Their weapons systems are being actively decommissioned. A trick, Vorlak growled. They seek to lure us into complacency. But the scans showed no deception. Earth's governments had issued a joint statement. To our visitors from the stars, humanity extends its hand in friendship. We invite you to land at the following coordinates. We have prepared cultural exhibitions, food tastings, and educational exchanges. Violence is not necessary. Let us show you who we are. Against all military protocol, against every instinct honed through centuries of conquest, Vorlak found himself curious. He ordered a small diplomatic vessel to descend, heavily armed and shielded, expecting an ambush at any moment. None came. Instead, the landing party was greeted by thousands of humans gathered in what they called Central Park in a city called New York. There were no weapons, no soldiers, just families with children, artists with paintings, musicians with instruments, and scientists with holographic displays. Sub-Commander Thrak, leading the ground team, reported back in bewilderment. Commander, they're having what they call a festival. They're offering us food. They want to show us something called dance. I don't understand their strategy. Stay alert, Vorlak ordered. This must be a deception. But hours passed, then days. The humans continued their bizarre behavior. They invited Craven soldiers into their homes, showed them their art galleries, their schools, their hospitals. They shared their music, their literature, their history, including all their wars and failures. We learned something important, explained Dr. Sarah Chen, addressing a group of increasingly confused Craven officers. We learned that the most powerful force in the universe isn't weapons or shields or fleet strength. It's connection, understanding, empathy. The Craven didn't have a word for empathy in their language. They watched, bewildered, as humans openly discussed their weaknesses, their fears, their dreams. Children drew pictures of Craven soldiers and gave them as gifts. Musicians composed songs incorporating Craven battle chants into human melodies. On the 5th day, something unprecedented happened. Warrior Grill, a veteran of 100 campaigns, accepted an invitation to attend what humans called a kindergarten class. He sat, all 8 feet of armored might, as 5-year-old children showed him finger paintings and taught him nursery rhymes. When he returned to the ship that evening, something in his compound eyes had changed. Commander, he reported, his voice unusual. I couldn't hurt them. They're not warriors. They're not threats. They're alive, like us, but different. They feel everything. You've been compromised, Vorlak snarled. Return to conditioning immediately. But more reports came in. Soldiers attending human concerts found themselves moved by music for the first time. Warriors who visited hospitals saw humans caring for the sick and elderly with a tenderness the Craven had bred out of their species millennia ago. Scientists who engaged with human researchers discovered perspectives on physics, biology, and philosophy that challenged everything they thought they knew. The humans were doing something no enemy had ever done. They were making themselves known, not as adversaries to be defeated, but as people to be understood. A week into the invasion, Vorlak received a formal invitation to dinner with the United Earth leadership. Still suspicious, he descended with a full honor guard. The dinner was held in the reconstructed United Nations building. Leaders from every nation sat around a circular table. Circular, they explained, because no one sat at the head. Everyone was equal. Commander Vorlak, said Secretary General Amara Okafor, standing to greet him. We're honored by your presence. Please, sit. Let's talk about the future. You will surrender, Vorlak stated flatly. This is not a negotiation. Of course it is. Amara smiled. Everything is a negotiation. But first, try the soup. It's a fusion of Earth cuisines, created specifically for this occasion. The dinner proceeded unlike any diplomatic function in Craven history. The humans spoke openly about their planet's problems: climate change, inequality, disease. They admitted their failures, their struggles, their ongoing efforts to become better. Why do you tell us your weaknesses? Vorlak finally asked, genuine confusion in his voice. Because they're not weaknesses, replied Dr. James Wright, an elderly historian. They're challenges, and we believe that together, humans and Craven, we can solve challenges better than either of us alone. You expect us to work with you. We are conquerors. You are the conquered. Are we? Amara asked gently. Have you conquered us, Commander? Your ships are in our orbit. Your soldiers walk our streets. But have our children stopped drawing pictures for your warriors? Has our music stopped playing in your barracks? Have our stories stopped filling your databanks? Vorlak felt something unfamiliar: uncertainty. In 15,000 conquests, success had always been measured in destroyed cities and subjugated populations, but Earth's cities stood untouched, and its population remained free. Yet something was changing, and it wasn't the humans. That night, Vorlak couldn't sleep. He stood at his viewport, watching Earth turn slowly below. Lights twinkled across continents, not the fires of war, but the glow of civilization continuing, as if the greatest armada in the galaxy wasn't hovering overhead. His communications officer approached hesitantly. Commander, we're receiving unusual reports from the fleet. Crew members are requesting shore leave. They want to attend something called a music festival and visit art museums. Denied. Vorlak snapped automatically. Then he paused. How many requests? 47,000, sir, and rising. Vorlak felt the foundations of his worldview trembling. The humans hadn't fired a single shot, hadn't activated any defensive system. They had simply opened their doors and said, "Come in. Know us. Let us know you." And it was working. The next morning, Vorlak received a message that shook him to his core. It was from High Command, parsecs away. Commander Vorlak, reports indicate zero progress in conquest of subject world 5847. Explain immediate deviation from standard protocols. Why is the native population not yet subdued? How could he explain that the concept of conquest itself was being challenged? That his warriors were being defeated not by weapons, but by kindergarten children and symphony orchestras? That the humans were practicing a form of warfare so subtle and profound that the Craven had no defense against it? As he stood on his bridge, wrestling with a response that would define the future of both species. His communication system chimed. A new message from Earth. This time, it was from a child. A girl no more than 7 years old, holding a drawing. "Dear Commander Vorlak," she said, smiling at the camera. "I drew this for you. It's my house, and that's you visiting for dinner. My mom says you're scared of us being different, but different is just another way of being special. I hope you like my picture. Love, Emma." Vorlak stared at the image, a crude child's drawing of a house with a disproportionately large figure meant to be him, standing next to stick figures of a human family, all holding hands. For the first time in his long career, he wondered if victory might look different than he had always believed. The War of Understanding. 3 weeks into the invasion, the Craven Empire faced a crisis unlike any in its history. Commander Vorlak had stopped sending conquest updates to High Command. When pressed, he merely responded with, "The situation on Earth requires careful analysis." In truth, the situation defied analysis by any metric. The Craven understood. Lieutenant Zektar presented the morning briefing with visible discomfort. "Commander, crew efficiency has dropped by 40%. Not due to human resistance. There is none. The crew is distracted." Distracted by what? Art galleries, poetry readings, something called jazz clubs, cooking classes. Warrior Grell has joined a human book club and refuses reassignment. Engineer Vorth is collaborating with human scientists on something called sustainable energy. Our soldiers are learning to paint. Vorlak's mandibles clicked in frustration. "We are warriors, conquerors, not artists." "That's what I thought too," came a voice from the doorway. Sub-Commander Thrak entered, carrying what looked like a musical instrument. "Until I attended their open mic night. Commander, I performed. The humans call it spoken word poetry. I talked about the Battle of Kepler 7, but differently. Through emotion instead of tactics. The humans, they cried. For our losses. For our victories. They understood our pain in ways we never allowed ourselves to feel." "You've lost your warrior's edge," Vorlak accused. "No, Commander. I found something sharper." The transformation was happening throughout the fleet. Craven soldiers, bred for war across generations, were discovering aspects of themselves they didn't know existed. The humans weren't defeating them. They were completing them. Dr. Sarah Chen had explained it during one of her many presentations to the increasingly eager Craven audiences. Every species evolves to survive their environment. You evolve to conquer. We evolve to connect. But evolution doesn't stop. It adapts. You're not losing your strength. You're gaining ours. The tipping point came when High Admiral Xerax himself arrived from the homeworld, furious at the lack of progress. His personal dreadnought, the final word, dwarfed even Vorlak's flyship. "Commander Vorlak." Xerax's voice boomed across the communications array. "You are relieved of command. I will personally oversee the destruction of this pathetic world. All forces, prepare for total bombardment." But nothing happened. Weapons systems remained offline. Crew members stayed at their posts but didn't activate firing sequences. Across the entire fleet, a coordinated non-action that spoke louder than any mutiny. "What is the meaning of this?" Xerax roared. Warrior Grell's voice came through the fleet-wide communication. "High Admiral, we respectfully decline to destroy Earth. We have learned something here, something important. You dare defy the Empire. We dare to evolve it," responded Engineer Vorth. "The humans have shown us a truth we never recognized. Strength without purpose is meaningless. Conquest without connection is hollow. We are more than our weapons. Admiral, we are more than our wars." On Earth's surface, humanity held its collective breath. They had gambled everything on a single belief, that beneath every conqueror's armor be a heart capable of more than conquest. Xerax descended to Earth personally, intending to execute Vorlak and his corrupted officers as an example. He arrived at the United Nations building with a squadron of his most loyal guards. He was met not by armed resistance, but by a child. Emma, the same girl who had sent the drawing to Vorlak, stood at the entrance holding a flower. "Are you the angry admiral?" she asked innocently. "This is for you. It's called a sunflower. It always turns toward the light, like people can." Zirax, who had never been addressed so directly by a child of any species, stood frozen. His guards, weapons raised, looked to him for orders. "Shoot her," he commanded, his voice less certain than intended. No one moved. "I said shoot." Warrior Krell stepped forward, removing his helmet. "No, Admiral. I won't. None of us will. Look at her. Really look. She's not a threat. She's a possibility." Secretary General Amara Okafor approached slowly. "Admiral Zirax, welcome to Earth. We've prepared a presentation for you. Not about our defenses or our surrender terms, about our dreams, our hopes for the future. A future where the Craven Empire becomes something greater than it's ever been. We are already great. We rule 15,000 worlds. But do those worlds love you?" asked Dr. Wright gently. "Do they create art in your honor? Do their children draw pictures of you as friends? Do their poets write of your wisdom rather than your weapons?" The presentation that followed was unlike any military briefing in Craven history. Humans and Craven, who had been working together, showed what they had accomplished in just 3 weeks. New energy systems combining both species technology. Medical advances merging Craven regeneration techniques with human compassion-based care. Artistic collaborations that created beauty neither species could achieve alone. "This is what's possible," Sarah Chen explained. "When we connect rather than conquer, when we build together rather than destroy, your empire could be based on collaboration instead of subjugation. Imagine the greatness that could achieve." Zirax watched, his certainty crumbling with each example. These humans hadn't weakened his forces. They had revealed strengths the Craven never knew they possessed. The turning point came when a Craven warrior performed a piece of music he had composed, the first original Craven musical composition in their species' recorded history. It was haunting, beautiful, and spoke of longing for something beyond endless war. "We did this," the warrior said simply. "Humans and Craven together. In 3 weeks, we've created what our empire couldn't in 3,000 years. Because they saw us as more than conquerors. They helped us see ourselves as more." That night, as Earth's representatives met with the entire Craven command structure, the unthinkable happened. The Craven Empire, which had never negotiated, never compromised, never shown mercy, began to talk about transformation. "What you propose is impossible," Zirax said, but his voice lacked conviction. "The Empire has always been based on strength. And it still will be," Amara replied. "But a different kind of strength. The strength to protect rather than destroy, to nurture rather than subjugate, to lead through example rather than fear. Our subject worlds would revolt without fear to contain them." "Would they?" asked Dr. Wright. "Or would they finally become willing partners in something greater? Fear creates compliance, Admiral, but respect creates loyalty. Love creates unbreakable bonds." The negotiations continued for days, not about terms of surrender, but about terms of transformation. How to reshape an empire built on conquest into an alliance built on mutual growth. The breakthrough came when the first messages arrived from Craven frontier worlds. Somehow, word of Earth's approach had spread. Subject species across the galaxy were broadcasting their own messages. "We want what Earth has offered. We want to know our conquerors as people. We want to share our art, our music, our dreams." It was Vorlak who finally spoke the words that changed galactic history. "The humans haven't conquered us. They've freed us. From ourselves. From limitations we imposed on our own evolution. From a future that held only endless war and empty victories." The treaty signed that day was unprecedented. The Craven Empire would transform into the Galactic Alliance, with Earth as a full partner. Subject worlds would be offered membership, not subjugation. The massive military machine would be repurposed for exploration, protection, and collaborative development. Some Craven hardliners resisted, of course, but they found themselves increasingly isolated as their own warriors chose transformation over tradition. 6 months later, Emba's drawing, the one she had sent to Vorlak, became the official symbol of the new Galactic Alliance. A simple child's illustration of former enemies as friends had captured a truth that all the military strategies in the universe had missed. As Commander Vorlak, now Ambassador Vorlak, prepared for his new role, he stood with Sarah Chen on the observation deck of the station being built jointly by humans and Craven. "You knew, didn't you?" he asked. "From the beginning, you knew this would happen." Sarah smiled. "We hoped. We believed. We knew that inside every conqueror is someone who wants to be more than just a conqueror. We simply gave you the space to discover it. You waged war on war itself, and won." "No, Ambassador, we all won. That's what makes this victory different from any other." Below them, Earth turned in space, no longer a target for conquest, but a beacon of transformation. Ships from across the galaxy arrived daily, bringing species eager to join this new experiment in cooperation. The humans had indeed shown the galaxy a new way to wage war, a war against isolation, against fear, against the limited definitions of what any species could become. And in that war, everyone who participated emerged victorious. As the sun set over the construction site, children of a dozen species played together in the station's arboretum, Craven, human, and others, their laughter echoing through corridors that had been designed for war, but now served a greater purpose. The age of conquest was ending. The age of connection had begun. And it all started with a species that had looked at the greatest military force in the galaxy and said, "Welcome. Come in. Let's talk." Sometimes the greatest victory is teaching your enemy that they don't have to be your enemy at all. Sometimes the most powerful weapon is an open hand. Sometimes the bravest thing a warrior can do is put down their sword and pick up a paintbrush, a musical instrument, or a child's drawing. The galaxy would never be the same.